Welcome to Daily 5 for Thursday, July 6th, 2023. I think I talked, it was a little while ago now, about the fact that there was going to be a new release of the 1995 film Johnny Mnemonic with Keanu Reeves, based on a story by William Gibson, where they were going to make it into a black and white film. Now, apparently, this was the original intent for the film. I don't know whether that's actually true or not, or if this was just a way to say we're going to resell this to people. But I've always had kind of a soft spot for Johnny Mnemonic. It's not, in the color version, I wouldn't make an argument to anybody that it's a great movie, but it is a fun movie. And honestly, there aren't that many Gibson adaptations around, and it's, in terms of what's out there, it's actually not bad. From seeing what got moved from the book to the screen and how it works, it actually functions fairly well. It's just a movie that does feel very much as a dead center 90s film. The preacher thing with Dolph Lundgren is awful. There's just no getting around that. You know, there are the CGI and computer effects at times are dated, but at this point, its depiction of the internet and VR has become charming. You know, it got outdated for a while. Now it's just kind of fun to go back and look. That's what I would say. It's a fun movie, but definitely a movie that for many people is a lesser film. And for some people, it's probably an awful movie. So I didn't know whether watching it in black and white was going to make much of a difference. And I had picked up a copy of it, and I'd meant to watch it, and I kind of fell by the wayside. And then I happened to see the Criterion added it to their Criterion Channel streaming service. And I went, you know what? I've got 90 minutes or so free. Let me just watch this thing and see if it's just, you know, the same movie, but no more colors, and that's all there is to it. And I have to be honest, the movie is a lot better in black and white, to the point where I will not, if I have an option, watch this in color again. I will watch this in black and white. And it'll probably be a movie I watch more often now that I can watch it in black and white, because it doesn't really improve any single thing by a massive amount. Like I said, it's, as far as I'm aware, it's the same edit, same shots, nothing really different except the title card that I could pick up. You know, and anything that they may have changed had to be very minor, because it felt like it was the same movie. I'd watched it not too long ago, so I had it somewhat fresh in my memory. But by just removing the color, I immediately started thinking about movies of that time period that were experimental films that I watched in black and white. I got visions of like Tetsuo the Iron Man, even though it's a completely different type of movie. Don't get me wrong. You wouldn't confuse these two. But I was thinking, there were a lot of cyberpunk films and shorts that I watched around this time period that were in black and white. And so with all the, because there's a lot of really good cyberpunk imagery in terms of set design and everything in Johnny Mnemonic. Put the story and the way it unfolds aside, it's got some really neat stuff in it in terms of the helmets he's wearing. You know, different set pieces are really, really neat. So that immediately made it into a more cyberpunk film for me, even though it really is at its core anyway. It didn't really need much enhancement, but yet it happened. And there were other things that I just started noticing, because the color wasn't as, I guess, distracting. It makes some of the bad CGI and computer effects less noticeable because they just seem more artsy. It seems more like a David Lynchian type decision to use retro lo-fi type of stuff, as opposed to what it actually, I'm sure, was. And that was they couldn't afford really good effects, and there just weren't really good effects at that point, or at least not at the budget they had. And so it became a movie that, in all these very slight all these slight improvements, added up to a movie that went from being kind of popcorn junky fun to actually a fun movie, a purely solidly fun movie. Again, I'm not trying to sell you that this is now The Godfather Part 2 or anything. It is certainly not that. It doesn't transform the movie into being suddenly a wonderful adaptation of the Gibson short story. It's not, but I do think it makes a significant improvement on the original just by having it in black and white. And I do actually think that that was probably how it was conceived, because it seems like it fits a black and white palette better. And that's generally not something that happens by accident. That seems like it is because the shots and the way that the movie is structured were actually intended to be shot in black and white, or at least presented in black and white. So again, I don't want to overdo it too much. If you hate Johnny Mnemonic, I don't think watching it in black and white is going to fix that for you. But if, like me, you've always liked the movie and wished it was a little bit better, well, I think in black and white, it is a little bit better. And that little bit is not nothing. It's a significant little bit, because again, it adds up throughout the movie, where I just really liked looking at the film because I was appreciating things differently. It just transformed it for me. So I would say, I know it's on Criterion. I know there's a physical release. I'm going to assume it can be rented or streamed somewhere. I did not check. I apologize. I didn't look before I started recording. But I'm just guessing you can probably find it in other places. If you get the chance, again, don't if you hate it, but if you ever liked it, watch it. It might make it better for you. And if you watch it and you like it, let me know. Later.